Show. Let's rock and roll. Rock and roll. Come on, everybody. Let's lose control. Brand John never wants to follow. Yeah, ready for the ride. It's the BJ Show.
BJ Show for June 24th. It's a Tuesday. John, you know what that means, John?
What does that mean, Brad? Is there a nasty acronym you can use that's based on banal humor?
So happy it's Tuesday, John.
What do you know? What does that spell, Brad?
S-H-I something or other. Oh, that is John Combest. He is the guy that puts together this incredible website. If you remember the Drudge Report, do you still ever go look at the Drudge Report, John?
I don't, no.
It's been sold. He doesn't really, Matt Drudge doesn't really have anything to do with it anymore, does he?
Yeah, I believe he sold it quite a long time ago. I don't think he's had anything to do with it for a while.
Do you think he's on the beach somewhere drinking drinks with like umbrellas in it or stuff like that?
I think he probably is. By the way, big shout out to Vic Faust. Vic is in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. You can listen to Vic Faust on luinfo.com. That's 5:90 a.m. He's on from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. And Vic is live broadcasting from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, Brad. He had a vacation that he had scheduled long before the luinfo.com show launched. So he did a fantastic job yesterday with his producer Projo of actually broadcasting. You know, they're one of those stations, kind of like KYRO up in Troy, that has invested a lot in video. And so Vic Faust was able to do his show yesterday from Myrtle Beach, Brad, had producer Projo right here in St. Louis, and they did a flawless show for 2 hours yesterday, Brad.
Let's check them out this morning.
Experts today.
800-497-7198.
They're doing commercials right now.
800-497-7198.
How are they doing commercials from Florida?
If you're talking, Brad, I can't hear you because of our technology. I can usually either not hear you or it's at a blasting decibel level.
Well, no,
but yeah, shout out to luinfo.com. They did a great job with Vic down in Myrtle Beach yesterday.
I'm trying to listen to him right now. Hold on a minute.
Who's the darn thing? Get out now. Hire the best Bulldog timeshare cancellation team in the business. Their in-house legal team, headed by a timeshare cancellation lawyer, can help you.
They're playing commercials, John. I mean, how are they doing commercials from Florida?
Yeah, I think they have a team that actually spends their day going out and selling advertising, Brad.
Unfortunately, this is a national ad, which they didn't sell. This is a network ad.
Go to the poorhouse. Call right now and learn how
I'm gonna
you
put my
can
headphones
stop
across the room,
maintenance
Brad, if
fees and
you're
put
gonna keep playing
more
ads at
money
that volume.
back in your pocket. Their services cost you a lot less than you think.
I'm listening to Vic. I want to hear Vic. He's not there. Well, that's John Combest. We'll come back to Vic in a couple of minutes. That's John Combest. He's the guy that puts together this incredible site every single day, and he puts it together extremely in-depth. Well, we don't have time. Well, we could maybe spend a whole hour and do every show, every thing in John's cavalcade of information he has there. But instead, we bring it down to these three, and we bring in this guy, and his name is...
I'm Casey Kasem.
And we start off with the number 3 spot, which is...
In third place...
A breathless headline from USA Today via the Springfield News Leader. It's a cliffhanger. Missouri passes new fireworks law. Will regulations affect 4th of July 2025? Boy, that enticed me to click. Not just because I linked the stories about Missouri political and government news, but also I want to know if fireworks are going to be affected this year. Last week, Brad, you and I talked about the fact that networks like USA Today do a pretty good job of they'll take a national issue and then they'll write a generic piece and then they'll tailor it just enough to make it about whatever state they have affiliates in that can run it. This is another piece brought to us, as we heard from last week, by Ahmed Jawadi. And he focused on Missouri in this piece. He points out that Missouri spends per capita more money on fireworks than any other state. And he says it's not even close. But there is a little bit of controversy. Because in the crime bill that was just passed, there was a whole bunch of stuff in there. It was really an amalgamation of a bunch of different topics. But there were a few provisions in there about fireworks. It includes the idea that the Missouri Fire Marshal will have greater oversight to inspect any location, including areas without local fire codes, where fireworks are stored, kept, or sold. And also, Brad, did you know that you cannot be guzzling alcohol or smoking dope at retail sites? Did you know that, Brad?
But you can in the car pickup line at Francis House Schools, correct?
Absolutely. In fact, it's encouraged. They have some folks out there with butane lighters that will just light your joint up for you. Now, I'll ruin the surprise with all due respect to the folks at USA Today and the Springfield News Leader. No, this will not affect fireworks sales this year because, as with most legislation, it won't go into effect until August 28th, meaning it won't impact the upcoming 2025 4th of July season. The other main provision in here, Brad, is that if you're selling fireworks now, you have to get permission from the state at least 10 days in advance of selling your fireworks. So that seems to be the main regulatory thing. I guess that allows the state 10 days to make sure you're not a crackhead or make sure that you don't have a long list of violations or make sure that you're on the up and up.
You know, this thing, the whole thing is so stupid. I mean, the whole fireworks thing is so stupid. I could tell you some stories, and we used to advertise with some fireworks stands. We don't have any on right now because of the fact. You know why? Why is that, Brad? They believe in billboards. They think billboards. Matter of fact.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Well, because when people are driving down the road, their eyes, if they're not glued to their phone or you're in the passenger seat, you're probably taking a look at the billboards, right?
I'll give you a perfect example of a fireworks stand that used to do a fair amount of advertising with us and now doesn't, and he believes in billboards. There's a billboard 35 miles away from his fireworks stand that I did a video in front of, and I sent it to him. I go, hey, I won't mention his name. This billboard is 35 miles away from your fireworks stand. People have to drive 3 different interstates to get to your fireworks stand, and by the time they get into St. Charles County, they'll pass 10 other fireworks stands before they get to use. But our signal on Westplex 107.1 blankets your area, and people are listening right now. And, of course, he never responded. But, I know a couple other people in this business. And to a certain extent, it's sort of a scam by some of the municipalities. And I won't mention the one municipality. It starts with a C and it ends with an E. And there's a lot of golf carts driving around in there.
Have you ever been kicked out of their chamber, Brad?
No. Yeah,
I think you have. Okay, go ahead. I know the one.
Okay.
Does it rhyme with Jason Modelville?
Yes, it does.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. One of the guys that I know who I still think is running a fireworks stand has told me that for like 3 years in a row, the fee he pays to this municipality has doubled. One year it was like $2,000. The next year was like $4,000. Next year was like $8,000. It's just a money grab, John. It's a money grab.
Well, what's wrong with that, Brad? Like if a fireworks stand is just operating for a short period of time, they're making a ton of cash. Why shouldn't they pay a little tribute to the municipality, right?
I'm not saying that they shouldn't, but it's getting to the point where it would be. See, I'm a small business guy, and the point about that is, and they claim, which is interesting, they claim, well, it's because we have to conform to all these new regulatory demands, and that's why the fee is more. Well, the problem is they don't have any regulatory. The munis don't, because it's all about the fire districts. Exactly what you talked about. It's about the fire inspector coming. And think about this for a minute, John. It's a tent, okay? I mean, it's a tent. Other than the fact that the fire inspector comes and looks at the tent to make sure the tent is made from fire-retardant materials, that there are some fire extinguishers strategically placed around, and there are signs saying no smoking past this point. What else is there to do? Can I ask you, what else would the fire inspector look for?
Yeah, I think there's probably some wooded areas, and a cat could run up in a tree.
And they would have to bring the truck out and get the cat down real quick, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Some people, Brad, are fire department partisans, and some people are police partisans, and that leads us nicely into story number 2.
Up a notch to number 2.
From Jason Rosenbaum at St. Louis Public Radio, and then reported by many other stations in the area. Here's a headline from Jason. Kehoe hopes new police board members usher in a new era for St. Louis Department. The much anticipated Civilian Review Board will be was just announced by Governor Kehoe. I'll tick through the names real quickly here, Brad. Brad Artiga, who owns a photography company. Unless I'm mistaken, I'm guessing he's the son of the great Vince Artiga, who took many pictures, had a location up on West Florissant for many years. Sonia Jenkins Gray served as St. Louis's personnel director until, as Rosenbaum points out, she had a bitter dispute over her employment with Tashara Jones. Excuse me. Chris Saraceno, he owns Bartolino's Hospitality Group. You know, they own Bartolino South. I think they had a couple locations. Ed McVeigh, owner of Maggie O'Brien's in downtown. And also, hi, I'm Don Brown, non-voting member of the police board. So these folks have different staggered appointment terms. Some will serve 1 year, some will serve 2 years, some will serve up to 4 years. Jason lays that out in here. And it's also laid out in the Post-Dispatch as well. So, Brad, this has been a much anticipated move of bringing the control of the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department, having the governor have a little bit more control over what goes on with city police. So finally, these names were named. As you could expect, there was a gentleman named Rasheen Aldridge, and he's a black guy. He's a one-legged black guy in the city. He was a former state rep for a while. I believe he identifies as a communist or a socialist. He runs as a Democrat, but I believe he's been involved in a lot of Communist Party USA promotional activities before. And he's upset because there aren't enough black people on the board. So that's to be expected. So if you're Kehoe, you probably just give that the appropriate amount of weight there. But anyway, so people will complain and whatever. But Kehoe's got his team now, Brad.
What do you think about this? The names, you know some of these people. Your impressions?
Yeah, I mean, so first of all, I don't know any of these folks personally. Yeah, it seems like a good, solid, pro-police. I mean, it's exactly what you would expect from Kehoe, which is people that either have a lot of experience with law enforcement or they're people with ties to the business community that actually have, as you would say, Brad, skin in the game to actually get civilized people who have money to spend to visit St. Louis and to encourage the police to actually protect law-abiding citizens, maybe put an end to as much savage behavior as they can.
Well, first off, they need to hire a bunch more. That's what they need to do. I mean, why is that so oblivious to the powers that be in the city of St. Louis? Why is that, John? Can you even come up with a crazy idea?
Yeah, I think so. Sorry to interrupt, but I think that under the previous administration, hiring police officers was not a priority. And under Cara Spencer, I think it will be.
Okay. We had a former president, who had this dude who kept saying, the border is secure. What was his name again? I can never remember his name.
Mayorkas Alejandro.
The border is secure. The border is secure. Okay? And they said, well, in order for the border to be less porous, we have to have new legislation, new this, new that. We have a new president that takes office. And I don't know if you heard this or not, but Pete Hegseth, I think, was reading this information the other day. I don't know why he's SecDev, but guess how many illegals came across the border in May on the southern border, John? Did you hear this story?
Just a fraction. Or do you actually have a number?
They said zero. They
0 points.
Yes, exactly. So if one administration for the federal government can have a porous border, and within 5 short months, essentially, because these figures were May, and probably not even really that, because Trump wasn't even inaugurated until the 20th. So you figure let's just call it 5 months, okay? In 5 months, he can shut down the border. In 2 months, wasn't the new mayor appointed, or actually sworn in office in April? Wasn't that what it is?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, we're in June right now. In 2 months, couldn't we have at least 50 new police officers on the street?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I do think it takes time to set up, whether you're paying them more or whether you're recruiting from somewhere. I don't think you flip a switch and suddenly people drive up I-44 to become St. Louis police officers. I do think it will take time, but yeah, Brad, I mean, to answer your broader question again, I think that now you have a collection of people who actually are business people and people who are pro law and order and who want to see more police on the streets and more savages put behind bars.
So you think this is positive, then, your bottom line?
No, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, number one.
The number one.
We've had a whole lot of news about Iran and Israel in the last 24 hours. And then if you back it up, 48, 72, 96, wherever you want to start, the skirmish, so to speak. And I guess skirmish is an important word here, Brad, because we've had a lot of Democrats say that what President Trump did with these strikes against Iran was actually war, and that it violates the War Powers Act, where the president must go to Congress before declaring war. Well, Congressman Ann Wagner was on Mark Reardon's show yesterday. Here's what she had to say about those complaints. Quote, the President Trump, clearly had the authority to do any kind of limited strike that he did. That is not in question. That is Article 2, Section 2. The president shall be commander-in-chief. It's very, very clear. This was done by Obama, by Biden, by Clinton. And Ann Wagner continues, this was a surgical decision aimed at, frankly, saving American lives, and I fully support it. It was the right decision. It was exercising what he and others have called peace through strength. She goes on to say that there's nothing broader than that. Again, Brad, it's a surgical strike, and because it's not a war, it does not violate the War Powers Act.
Interesting. Now, the thing that I find fascinating about this whole situation is that I'm a little bit concerned that maybe we didn't blow up as much stuff as we said we did. You know what I mean? When someone uses the word obliterate, which Trump uses, if someone says, hey, there was a McDonald's on the corner of Lindbergh and 44, and a bomb hit it and it was obliterated, if you drove by there, you would expect to see nothing left, pretty much, correct?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, Brad.
I don't think that's the case. I've seen you can look at the satellite pictures. They're online, and the before and after, I'm going like, okay, maybe I'm missing something. I don't see a lot of difference. You know what I'm saying?
I think so. And Ann Wagner in here goes on to say, essentially, Brad, you can read the transcript. I have a link, of course, to the Apple Podcast version, and you can click on that and read the podcast. Ann Wagner goes on to essentially repeat what you said, Brad, which is that Iran still has plenty of power there.
Yes.
So it's not as though, the country, in my words and your words, has been obliterated, and in Trump's words have been obliterated. But yeah, I mean, she waves the flag too that I'm trying to bring up her exact quote here. But she goes on to say that, we didn't obliterate Iran, and the threats still certainly remain.
Right. If it were if transformed into a desert where there's nothing standing anymore, yeah, we obliterated it. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. You know what we need to do right now, John?
What's that, Brad?
We need to check in on Vic Foss, since you're such a big fan of his.
Yeah, that's great.
Let's see if it's
big stores. We'll be back with more right after this.
Oh, we caught him going into a break, John.
There we go. That's awesome.
Oh, man. I tell you what, scintillating radio. I love it. Okay, we have to take a break, and we'll be back with what's coming up next, John?
It is Brad's Top 3, day number 9, Brad.
And what have I done with day number 9?
I don't know. You've eclipsed one of your many short-term abandoned domains, which was Brad Camp.
It's not abandoned. It's there.